Hello and welcome to your Salesforce Pro Suite self-implementation video. And in today's topic, I'm going to help you cover one of the very first things that I do in every org before I set up any users, before I get started with anything, because this little tip I'm going to give you helps avoid frustration, confusion, and even some severe impacts to prospect and client meetings. So it's going to come in a very unexpected place, and it's a setting for setting up your time zones in your org. And before you just check out and you think, oh, I don't need that, let me just showcase the problem to you, and I'll walk you through the solutions and how you can make sure that your users don't experience this very frustrating occurrence. So I'm just going to create here a lead for Joe Johnson, and hopefully you can see down here, but if you can't, it says 11:54 a.m. And now when I go scroll down to the bottom, it's telling me that I created this at 9:54 a.m. So 2 hours off. That's strange, right? Like, troubleshooting makes it very difficult, confusing to try to figure out what's going on. Well, that might seem minor to you, but let me show you the even bigger scenario. Let's say I have a prospect meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. And so I'm just going to go ahead and enter that in here and save that. All right, great. So I've got my meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. Now I'm going to show you how to change these settings, and we're going to show you the impact of what just happens if you don't do this in advance. All right, so you have your quick settings here in Pro Suite, right? But we need to solve this problem, we need to go into the advanced settings. So on the left-hand side here, I'm just going to give you the specific instructions instead of scrolling to find these. Type in company information. I'm going to click this open here and hit edit. And this is a default time zone that is automatically, every single org that's set up is defaults to the Pacific time zone. So obviously, if most of your employees and your company operates out of the Pacific time zone, that's great. But a lot of times we have people who are in remote offices and that might have a different time zone. So you want to make sure that every individual user's time zone is set up correctly. But to start, let's just decide what you're going to choose for your default time zone. So now you can definitely set this to your company headquarters, but if most of your employees are in a different time zone, I'd actually suggest you just set that as your default so that you don't have to change every single individual user in the future. So I am in Central Time Zone, so I'm just going to go ahead and change this default time zone to Chicago. I go ahead and save that. And now let's see if this fixed my problem, right? So now, does this record show that it was created at my 11:54? And it doesn't. It still shows 9:54. Well, why is that? Because again, remember, I set it up at the company default level. So now to solve this problem for me specifically, we need to go back into that setup, advanced setup, and you can go into your users here. But now this is something that's different in Pro Suite than the other enterprise editions. And I find it actually quite frustrating. I want to be able to click on these users to see them, but you can't. Though you can search for them directly and it brings up their user record. And you can just view that there and do some audit checking. But in this case, I do need to edit it. So I can do it from this list. It's just a little bit confusing that you can't click on that user. So this is my user. I'm logged in. I need to go hit edit user. And I'm going to scroll down to the time zone. And you can see here that it's still showing Pacific. Oh, so this is my problem, right? Now I need to go and change this one also to Central Time so that I can fix that problem. Let's see. 5. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then any users that you've already created, you need to make sure and go back and change their setting to the right time zone. They should actually, I believe they can also set this up on their own. They can go into their settings I think they can go here, and I'm going to test my knowledge here live. I think it's here. Yep. So they can go, and if you have people, if you created a lot of users, maybe it's best to give them the instructions to click the profile settings and then go to the time zone where they can change it. That could be a time saver. But if you've only created a few users, maybe just go ahead and change it for them. But let's go back to this page and see what happened to our lead that we created. All right, so I'm going to scroll down. Oh, look at that. Now it's showing, right? This is the cool thing, is that when I change that setting, it automatically updates everything backwards based on that time zone. But now the problem is, if I didn't do it in advance of updating and creating all these events with these times, now that event that I created at 10 a.m. tomorrow is showing at 12 p.m. And I'm going to have to go edit those specifically and say, oh no, I thought that was at 10 a.m. I thought the time zone was right. Now I need to come in, change it, and save it again. So again, this is just the way in which I implement, that I set up my orgs. I do these things. I do this step. Pretty much it's the second step I do in every single org. So I would suggest and highly recommend that you go ahead and change these settings for your company as well.